Hello, hello. So for today, I want to offer you a brief mini lesson on active listening skills. This week, you're going to be combing through cognitive bias as part of your week 6 additional resources. And they give you a lot of great tips to help you understand what cognitive bias is and how to stop it in its tracks. And I want to offer this brief mini lessons to give you another tool that you can use to avoid cognitive bias. And I think it really comes down to actually listening to the person that is speaking to us so that we can tune out the internal dialogue and the other things that prevent us from really hearing what the person is saying. Active listening skills are similar to stop, drop, and roll when you're on fire. So if you're not fully listening, you could be on fire. So let's cut that out and focus on stop, look, and listen rather than stop, drop, and roll. So stop. When someone is speaking to you and you're trying to listen, it makes sense that we would stop and try to hear what they're saying. But we don't always do that, do we? We have this internal self talk that gets in the way. We're anticipating what the person is going to say so that we can figure out what we're going to say next. When really, we just need to stop and make a decision to be fully present to hear what the person is saying. So that means you put your own thoughts aside. You are there mentally as well as physically. So, what does that mean? Just because my body is here doesn't mean that my brain is. So we have to rein in the things that we're thinking about and pay attention to what the person is saying. Also, just taking that time to adequately listen. Stop texting, stop talking on the phone, stop looking at Facebook or other social media outlets. Put it down and stop and listen to the person who is talking to you. After we stop, what can we do? We can look. And that means taking in the nonverbal cues that the person is offering. So when you pay attention to nonverbal messages, you realize that they're really very powerful. And at the same time that we are listening with our ears, we have to learn how to listen with our eyes and take in what the person is not saying. It's kind of like reading between the lines. So we try to see if their nonverbals match up with what they're saying. And also, the tricky part of this is not getting distracted by their nonverbal behaviors. So make sure that you are improving your nonverbal communication, which is establishing eye contact with them, stop fidgeting and focus in on the person so they can focus on you and you can see what is not being said. And then finally, it makes sense that part of active listening would be actually listening. Effective listeners are active listeners and not passive listeners. We're not just doing a brain dump here. We're listening to understand to make sure that we are receiving the message the same way that they intend for us to do that. And one of the ways we can do that is just to listen. Don't interrupt. Wait for them to finish talking, which is part of that nonverbal look. You can tell when a person is done with a thought. They pause and they do something particular with their eye contact to show that they're done talking and it's your turn. Next, we want to respond with appropriate verbal feedback by saying things like, yes, I see what you're saying. I understand. And if you don't understand, waiting for your turn and asking appropriate questions so that you can understand what they're saying. So, again, this is just a brief look at active listening skills as a way to confront cognitive bias so you can understand what the person is saying and open yourself up to really hearing. If you have any questions about active listening, please let me know. Happy to hear from you.